Washington, D.C., the city where power collides with principle, and where every word spoken in the halls of justice reverberates across the nation. On this day, the marble steps of the Supreme Court were not just stone in history, they were a battlefield. Donald Trump had made his demand crystal clear. The killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk must face the death penalty. To his supporters, this was justice in its purest form, a declaration that no crime against their movement would go unanswered. To his critics, it was something far more dangerous. The former president once again bending the machinery of justice toward political ends. Inside the court, the drama intensified. Chief Justice John Roberts, the most powerful legal figure in the country, now found himself cast into the storm. Known for his careful balancing act for navigating between the sharp edges of ideology, Roberts was about to face a test unlike any other. This was not just about one man on trial. It was not only about Charlie Kirk, whose name had ignited anger and grief across the political spectrum. It was about the very boundaries of justice. Could the courts resist the pressure of politics, or would the Supreme Court bend under the weight of Trump's demand? Cameras flashed outside the courthouse. Protesters lined the sidewalks, chanting, waving banners, their voices colliding in the humid Washington air. One side shouted for justice, calling for the ultimate punishment. The other demanded restraint, warning against vengeance disguised as law. Trump, speaking to a crowd just a day earlier, had been blunt. If you take the life of a patriot, you don't deserve to live. The killer of Charlie Kirk should face the death penalty, and I will fight until that happens. No excuses. The words were raw, uncompromising, and they ignited his base like fuel on fire. Headlines screamed. Commentators filled the airwaves. And now those words echoed into the marble chamber of the Supreme Court, where John Roberts sat in silence, the weight of the Constitution heavy on his shoulders. The moment was set. On one side, Donald Trump, relentless, demanding nothing less than the ultimate punishment. On the other, Chief Justice Roberts, the guardian of judicial restraint, facing pressure from both the streets and the former president himself. This was more than a case. This was a showdown, a collision of politics, power, and principle, unfolding on the highest stage of American justice. And as the first arguments began, one truth became clear. History was about to be written, and silence was no longer an option. The marble chamber of the Supreme Court seemed colder than usual, the silence heavier as the arguments began to unfold. The stakes were not just legal, they were moral, political, even existential. For Donald Trump, this case had become a symbol. For Chief Justice John Roberts, it was a test of the very independence of the court itself. The question before the justices was deceptively simple. Should the killer of Charlie Kirk face the death penalty? But beneath that legal question pulsed a far deeper struggle. The collision between a nation's thirst for justice and its fear of political retribution. Trump's allies filled the airwaves. Conservative commentators called the case a line in the sand, insisting that failing to deliver the death penalty would be a betrayal of Kirk's legacy and a signal of weakness in the face of political violence. At rallies across the country, chants of justice for Charlie echoed like battle cries. Meanwhile, Trump himself did not hold back. If the Supreme Court won't defend America, then the people will know exactly who failed them. We will not allow killers to walk away with their lives while patriots are buried in the ground. The words weren't just an appeal, they were pressure. Direct, unrelenting, aimed squarely at Roberts and the bench. Chief Justice Roberts, sitting high in his black robe, was no stranger to political storms. He had been called cautious, calculating, even unpredictable. But never before had he been so publicly challenged by a former president, demanding a verdict. His every expression, every pause was scrutinized not only by the press but by millions watching beyond the chamber's walls. As arguments raged, the nation divided further. Supporters of Trump praised his boldness, calling him the only leader willing to confront what they saw as a system gone soft. Critics, however, warned of the dangerous precedent being set, a former president dictating justice by rallying public fury against the highest court. Legal scholars debated endlessly on television. Was this about justice for Charlie Kirk? Or was it about Donald Trump tightening his grip on political power? Could the Supreme Court withstand the pressure of public outrage, or would it crack under the weight of Trump's demand? In the chamber itself, lawyers clashed. One side argued the death penalty was the only fitting punishment for a crime so politically charged, so brutal. The other warned that yielding to political figures in cases like this would destroy the fragile independence of the judiciary. And through it all, Roberts remained stoic. His face revealed little, but the tension was unmistakable. Would he stand firm as the guardian of law, or would Trump's unrelenting demands bend the court toward his will? The battle lines were drawn. Protesters outside grew louder, voices clashing with each other in an almost primal rhythm. Inside, the air was electric, every word dripping with consequence. This was not just a legal case, it was a reckoning, and as the arguments burned brighter, the nation realized the real confrontation was not yet here. The storm was still gathering, and the climax was only moments away. The chamber trembled under the weight of history. Every eye was fixed on the front bench, where Chief Justice John Roberts prepared to speak. For days, the courtroom had been consumed by arguments, protests, and pressure. But this moment, this was the climax. Donald Trump had framed the case as a battle between justice and betrayal. His words thundered across rallies and television screens. If America cannot protect its patriots, then America has lost its soul. Charlie Kirk's killer deserves the death penalty. Anything less is surrender. The message was unmistakable. Trump was demanding not just a ruling, but submission. From the courts, from Roberts, from the system itself. Inside the chamber, Roberts leaned forward, his face stern, his tone deliberate. He spoke not as a politician, but as a guardian of law. This court is not here to deliver vengeance. It is here to uphold justice under the Constitution. We must decide not through the force of voices outside these walls, but by the principles that define this nation. The words echoed through the courtroom, but they were met with a furious reaction outside. Protesters roared, their chants shaking the marble walls. Justice for Charlie. The clash between passion and principle had never been more visible. Cameras captured every angle. Roberts calm but unyielding, Trump's allies seething in the gallery, and the nation watching as if democracy itself were on trial. Then came the moment. Roberts addressed the heart of Trump's demand. No one, not a president, not a former president, not even this court, may allow justice to be driven by political demand. The rule of law cannot be bent to the will of power. The statement landed like a thunderclap. For a split second, the chamber froze. Reporters gasped. Lawyers exchanged shocked glances. Trump's reaction was immediate. Outside the courthouse, he raised his fist before cameras, his face a mask of defiance. If Roberts won't deliver justice, then the people will. This fight is not over. It has only just begun. The image raced across every screen in America. Roberts inside, holding firm to the law. Trump outside, rallying the fury of the crowd. Two visions of power colliding in real time, one bound to institutions, the other fueled by raw will. The clash was undeniable. One side demanded the death penalty as a symbol of strength. The other warned that bending justice to political demands would destroy the republic. This was more than a ruling. It was a reckoning. For Roberts, it was about defending the Constitution. For Trump, it was about commanding the people. And for America, it was about deciding what kind of nation it wanted to be. One ruled by principle or one ruled by force. The chamber shook with silence, the verdict not yet final, but the confrontation had already changed everything. The showdown between Trump and Roberts had left scars that no ruling could erase. The dust had not yet settled, but the nation was already reeling. Outside the Supreme Court, crowds pressed against barricades, their chants echoing through Washington streets. Inside, the justices filed out, their faces grim, their robes brushing against marble floors heavy with history. The clash between Donald Trump and Chief Justice John Roberts had ended without a clean resolution. No gavel strike could silence the deeper battle unleashed that day. For Trump's supporters, Roberts had failed them, proving once again that the system protected itself at the expense of the people. For Trump's critics, Roberts had stood as a bulwark, resisting the pressure of a former president demanding blood over law. News networks exploded with coverage. One outlet declared, Roberts defends the Constitution. Another screamed, Trump declares war on the court. Social media ignited, hashtags colliding in digital combat. Justice for Charlie, hashtag stand with Roberts, death penalty now. The killer of Charlie Kirk remained at the center of it all, but in truth, the case had grown into something far larger. It was no longer about one man's crime. It was about whether justice in America could survive the full force of political will. Trump, standing before a sea of supporters, doubled down. They think they can silence us. They think they can hide behind robes and titles. But the people will have the final say. Justice will be served, one way or another. The words ignited the crowd, a fiery echo of defiance that promised more battles ahead. Roberts, meanwhile, retreated into silence, knowing that his every word would now be dissected for weeks, months, perhaps years to come. What happened in that chamber was not just a legal hearing. It was a collision of visions. Trump embodied raw willpower, a demand for punishment that resonated with millions. Roberts embodied restraint, the belief that law must stand apart from fury. Both sides claimed to defend justice. Both sides believed the nation's future was at stake, and America was left to decide, was this a triumph of principle or the beginning of a dangerous slide into vengeance as policy? One thing was clear, the showdown between Trump and Roberts had revealed cracks in the foundation of the republic, cracks that would not easily be repaired, and whether you stood with Trump's demand for the death penalty or with Roberts' defense of judicial independence, you could not look away. Because in that moment, America wasn't just watching a trial, America was on trial. Now it's your turn. Was Donald Trump right to demand the death penalty for Charlie Kirk's killer, or did Chief Justice Roberts take the only path that could preserve justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think. And if you found this breakdown powerful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more dramatic political commentary, and ring the notification bell so you never miss when history is made in real time. Because in today's America, justice isn't just decided in court, it's decided in the court of public opinion.